Before I get started on our program, I just want to thank Sheriff Jeff Cassidy for what he does. And if you're following the news, you know what I mean. Okay, well, Kiwanis has done a great job over the years highlighting our regional colleges and universities. And I think it's been quite a while since we've had Emory and Henry here. So, and it's a real treat for me because Dr. Michael Puglisi was my boss for a few years, and he was a really good boss. And I guess in my Army background, I can't get used to calling him Mike. He's always Dr. Puglisi. Um, First, he's not the provost and executive vice president anymore because he's retiring this year and he's kind of in a transition. He serves as the vice president right now as the vice president for accreditation and special projects at Emory and Henry, and he's helping his replacement as provost and executive vice president kind of get feet on the ground. And so in his current role, he serves as the university's primary accreditation officer. He leads the institution's strategic planning process and advises the president on strategic initiatives. He earned his bachelor's degree in history from James Madison University, his master's and PhD in American history from College of William and Mary. He even learned to speak French. He says he's a little rusty now. Prior to assuming his current position, he was the provost at Emory Henry, like I mentioned. Before that, he held positions of vice president for academic affairs and provost at Virginia Intermont, and then later on became the president of Virginia Intermont. That's when I worked under Dr. Puglisi. He was a great boss, and not just for me, but for everybody. He was really a boss that cares about people and the betterment of the institution. His research interests include colonial America, the early American frontier, and American ethnohistory. Current research involves a study of the free black population of Washington County, Virginia during the 18th and 19th centuries. He says after he retires, he's going to go on and do some academic research and probably publish again, and I'm looking forward to that. Here's a little known fact. For many years, he was an umpire in baseball, and maybe he'll tell us about that. But please give a great Kiwanis welcome to Dr. Michael Puglisi.
Well, I want to thank you all for having me this afternoon. When Colonel Scholl reached out, I have trouble calling him Pat. He's Colonel Scholl to me. When Colonel Scholl reached out back in the fall to see if I was available, I said I'd be glad to come. I said, but you really ought to ask our president. And so he said, yes, go ahead. And she would have loved to have come as well, but she is also on the national board of the accreditor for physical therapy education. And as things turned out, she had to be out of town at a meeting yesterday and today. So she asked me to come and extend her well wishes to you as well. She would have liked to have been here today as well. Colonel Scholl was a great chief of staff. I'll tell you, he was certainly my right hand, and I depended on him and admired his work and consider him to this day a dear friend for the service he gave to me in that role. Umpiring baseball. I'll tell you a story. At Emory and Henry, I don't know if you remember. Anyway, we had another employee from Emory and Henry who came from Virginia who came to Emory and Henry, and he was an even more active baseball umpire than I was. And so one fall, not too many years, a couple years ago, he said, would you like to come out and do they play fall ball kind of in college, kind of informal. Would you like to come out and do a fall ball game with me? He said, you can do the bases, And I said, Jerry Odell, remember? Jerry, if I were to stand in the middle of an infield today and a college player hit a line drive up the middle, I don't think I'd be able to get out of the way of it. So I turned down that invitation. But I'm here today to talk about Virginia Intermont, and I'm certainly happy to do it. This is one of my favorite topics. Just as a kind of a footnote to the introduction, I started my career at Emory and Henry in the late 80s out of graduate school as a history professor. And then after serving there, I left for 17 years and worked my way through higher education administration and had the opportunity to come back to Emory and Henry in 2010. And so I've considered it a real honor in my career to work for that institution, an institution that I very much love. So let me see. The arrow up. Down. There we go. Okay. So I'd like to start with our new tagline that we just adopted in the fall. Rooted here, ready for anywhere. And when we first looked at this, some of the people we ran it by said, well, does that mean that Emory and Henry is only for students from this region, from Appalachia? And we said, no, that's not the case. We welcome students from all over the country. But we feel that our experience at Emory and Henry is based on the values of this region. And those values are the foundation, the roots that hold us firm and have held us to our identity since our founding in 1836. And so our history, our legacy, our identity is based on, the values who make us who we are. We emphasize service to others, leadership in the region, appreciation of our roots and what that means to who we are. And that's what we try to instill into our students, whatever they're studying, whatever their career goals are. We always often say that back in our history, we were known for educating preachers and teachers. And certainly those values applied in those two roles. But the same values apply to whatever students pursue. And as we have grown and expanded, this idea of rooted for here, but ready for anywhere is really, I think, the perfect kind of tagline for what Emory and Henry does. Our education, we want to prepare students with those strong values that will lead them to success, whatever they choose to do and whatever they accomplish and wherever they go, because we have alumni all over the country and internationally as well. Because we expect our students to make a difference. That's one of the things we instill in our students, that wherever they end up in life, whether it's a small corner or a big corner of the world, we expect them to make a difference for good. And that's really at the basis of our education. So 2020, Emory and Henry made the commitment to pivot our educational experience to the world of work. That is, we want students who come out of Emory and Henry to have a strong, solid education that's grounded in the liberal arts, but their education provides a focus on career readiness. And, that's not contradictory. Some people would say, well, the liberal arts shouldn't be sullied by thinking about careers and making a living, et cetera. Well, we said, why else do you go to college, right? And so we've made this commitment to focusing on career readiness. We feel that the two are complementary. The liberal arts and the preparation for the world of work, career readiness, are complementary to each other. And that, the liberal arts really enriches every education, every professional career. And so that's the foundation of our educational experience. I went too far. Here we go. One thing we like to talk about is that we want our education to future-proof our students. I said we still are founded based in the liberal arts, but there's a lot of skepticism today about what's the value of a liberal arts education. What does that really do for you? How practical is it? You say, if you ask someone, what's the liberal arts education? You're probably going to get an answer, well, it makes you a more well-rounded person. Well, what does that mean? Many, in much of our history and in many other institutions, a liberal arts education just means you take an assortment, kind of a cafeteria choice of classes, randomly distributed across the curriculum. So you have to have a class in the arts, a class in the sciences, a class in the social sciences, et cetera. Just checking off the boxes. And I'm a big fan of learning for learning's sake. I mean, I think back to my own college career many, many years ago at James Madison University. I think about classes I took that really had no direct relevance to my career path, but they still had a lot to do with, how I progressed as a professional. So I'm a fan of learning for learning's sake. But if there's not a clear learning outcome to your educational experience, then it has limited value. And so we are founded in the liberal arts, but we focus more on the skills that can be developed through the liberal arts, through a cohesive whole program, rather than just through checking off boxes or taking required classes. We think about skills like critical thinking and the ability to synthesize information, to draw from a variety of sources, different disciplines. Communication skills, the ability to understand and appreciate different approaches from different disciplines. How does a scientist think about this? How does a social scientist think about it? And understand that everyone has something to contribute. And in this way, we're helping students to develop these skills that are going to serve them throughout their careers, whatever they are. That these skills are applied, and I'm going to talk a little bit about our curriculum and how these skills are applied through their curriculum, critical thinking, communication, etc. That they're very practical. I mean, that's one of the knocks of a liberal arts education today, I think, in public perception. How practical is it, to study philosophy or literature, etc.? But as I'll try to convince you later, it really is very practical. But almost as more importantly than the others is that it's adaptable. Because every year that passes by, if you look at the labor statistics, how many times a person changes career paths during their lives? And not only maybe different job, but entirely different careers. And so we want to instill students with those skills that will make them adaptable to whatever life throws at them, and being able to switch to the life changes that come their way. Keep pointing the wrong way. We like to shape our curriculum with what we call responsive academic programs. One of the things we ask ourselves is what do potential students want? What are they looking for? And the question often is, well, how do we know that? Well, one way is listening to prospective students. What do they want to do with their college career? What do they want to get out of a college education? And doing that can be successful. One example I point out at Emory and Henry is that 5 or 6 years ago, we kept hearing from potential students that they were very interested in engineering. We didn't have any engineering program. So we came back and looked at our strengths that we had in physics and in chemistry and a few other related disciplines. And we developed a program, a bachelor's degree in engineering science. And that today is one of our fastest growing academic majors at Emory and Henry, being very popular. So we listen to students. What do they want to see? And we've added where we can. We also look at the labor market. What do labor statistics indicate the growing career paths are going to be? What ways can we serve the predictions on the growth fields in the labor market? And we look at that both not just nationally, but regionally as well, because we have so many students from our region. We reach out to employers, businesses and corporate entities of the region. And we want to know, in partnering and speaking with them, what are they looking for in their new employees? What kind of education do they want their new employees to have when they're searching for growth in new employees? But we also are asking, what do they need in terms of training for their current employees, because we want to be able to provide that as well. We have developed a school of online and professional studies, online education and professional studies, where we're offering programs, both degree programs and non-degree training programs, that are highly responsive to what employers are telling us they need, so that we can customize training programs to a particular industry, to a particular employer, and provide that training to their employees. And we've crafted many of them in a way that what we call stackable credentials. The employees can take the training either for credit or not for credit. But if they choose to take them for credit, they may be 3 classes or 4 classes, which then if they decide that they want to go on and earn a degree, either a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, that those 3 or 4 classes they took to get that one credential, a certificate in a particular skill area, they can stack that with others to then contribute to earning a degree if they choose to go that path. So we're looking to be more responsive to what employers are looking for as well. As I mentioned, that School of Online Learning and Professional Studies, if you look on our website under that School of Online Learning, you'll see the tagline for the School of Online Learning is learning anytime, anywhere. For much of its history since 1836, Emory and Henry has been a very traditional residential campus. But when we made that commitment to pivoting to the world of work, we recognize that there are a lot of potential students out there who either never completed a college education or maybe went to retool and go in a different direction, but they're working adults. They can't or don't have any interest in coming and living on campus and being full-time students. So when we made that commitment to pivoting to the world of work, we also expanded into online education so that students, working adults, non-traditional students, can take classes anytime, anywhere, and reach their educational goals and their professional goals. At Emory and Henry, we have gone to a model of professional advising. So those of you who went to college, you may remember your advisor probably was a faculty member in your major. We have decided that we have a staff of professional advisors whose job is to really know the whole college experience and all the requirements, all the options, etc., and to be able to address any problems that students have, whether it's financial aid or what classes to take next semester. The faculty are still, of course, very strong mentors to their students. But in terms of doing the actual advising, we have professional advisors who work one-on-one with their students. They each have a caseload of students. But we've trained our professional advisors not to say, what do you want to major in? But to approach students by saying, what do you want to do with your college career? Where would you like to be? What are the outcomes? What's the destination that you'd like to see after 4 years or 5 years, or 6 years of college education? And then our response is, how do we get you there? So that's the way we approach shaping the student experience and helping them get to their desired outcome, their career path that they have in mind when they come to college. Many of them don't have an idea when they first come in. So these advisors also work with them. They serve as advisors and success coaches. They help the students to discern what it is they want to do with their college education, and then where they want that to lead them in life. And that's the approach we take with our students. That idea of where they want to go and what is their destination is very much tied with that idea that I mentioned earlier on career readiness. We focus on experiential learning for our students, not just classroom learning, but actually getting out and doing. We've just developed a new general education program. Again, going away from just taking a checklist of classes that you have to take to meet the graduation requirement, but really looking at a program that starts in year one and goes all the way through their senior year. The first 2 years, they focus on taking foundational courses to explore that question that I mentioned earlier. How do specific disciplines approach a problem? How would a scientist approach this problem? How would a social scientist? How would an arts discipline approach these problems? So they take those courses, rather than just checking off like English literature or ancient philosophy, they take classes that those disciplines that those disciplines provide to talk about how they go about using their education. Their junior and senior year, they apply to be on multiple disciplinary teams to address real world challenges. So there might be a team of 20 students. Some of them are looking to major in the sciences. Some of them are in social sciences. Some of them are in the arts, what have you. And their job over those 2 years is to look at a problem that's posed to them and develop a solution or a deliverable to the problem that's posed. We're partnering or working with a number of regional and community partners that will engage our students in this process. For instance, we've been talking and working out a partnership with the Oak Ridge National Laboratories, where they will give us certain projects that they're working on. And we will have a team or teams of students researching how they can roll this product out, what the strategy might be for bringing it to fruition, how do they commercialize a product that the Oak Ridge Laboratories are working on. We're working with the Small Business Association in Southwest Virginia. We have entrepreneurship competitions through our business program, but students from any discipline can get in them, where they look at developing a small business, developing a business plan, developing a marketing plan for that business, etc. And then it's a competition, like a Shark Tank kind of thing. And each year, one is chosen for funding from a community organization. We've talked with community foundations. We've talked to the Wellspring Foundation in Abingdon, for instance, and looked at providing teams of students to plug into their various community projects and how our students can help with the groundwork, the research, the marketing of the project. So in all these cases, we're giving students hands-on experiences, and this is a professional experience for them. Their team has to be able to develop a deliverable, to present a deliverable at the end of the process. They have to sell their solution. In many cases, we'll have more than one team of students working on the same problem. And so they might be presenting conflicting or competing solutions. So this is a way of getting students into this experience of really doing professional work. I can remember some years ago, and COVID did this but we had an event every spring called Ampersand Day. Ampersand is a big thing at Emory and Henry because it's a connector. It joins two things. And so we had a day in the spring every year when we didn't have any classes. We canceled classes all across campus, and the whole campus was turned into a presentation venue where students presented their projects to their fellow students, to the faculty and staff, but also we had a lot of community people, a lot of alumni who would come in to see this whole day of student presentations. And I remember one year, I wish we still did this, but every student who was making a presentation, we gave them a little badge to wear, a little button that said, "Ask me what I'm working on." Because our philosophy was, and still is, when you go out for that first job interview, we don't want you to just tell the potential employer, "Here's what I majored in." We want you to be able to tell the employer, "Here's what I did while I was still in college." And here's the experience I bring to this first job already. We have really gone very heavily into partnerships, to collaborative ventures with community colleges in Southwest Virginia and to the public school systems. One of the reasons is we want to provide an accessible path for students who think maybe that they can't afford a college education. They can get some dual enrollment credits while they're in high school. They can take 2 years at a community college, get an associate's degree, and then finish with a 4-year degree, hopefully with us. That's not necessarily part of the deal. So we're trying to cultivate a workforce for the region by students who want to stay here, but also want to get a college education. We have a Teachers for Tomorrow program, for instance. They take 2 years of high school classes through the community colleges. They finish an associate's degree in education at a community college, and then they can come to us or any other 4-year institution to finish and get that teacher licensure. We have the HEALS Academy, the Healthcare Excellence Academy Lab School, which was a result of an initiative by the state of Virginia to fund lab schools in different parts of the state. Ours is focused on health sciences. Our goal there is to educate students, again, who give them an accessible path to get a college degree and hopefully stay in the region and give back to their region. I'm almost done. Back when I was teaching, students knew that they were never going to get out of my class early. One time a student set the clock back before I came in, or set the clock forward, I guess. And so I hurried to get through the class, let them go, apologized for being, keeping them over. And finally the last student came up to me and said, "You do know you let us out 10 minutes early, right?" I didn't know it. The clock said it was time to go. I can't end this without talking about, when we talk about expansion of the institution, we transitioned from Emory and Henry College to Emory and Henry University 2 years ago, 2024. And part of the motivation for doing that was recognition that we've become a much more complex institution than we were for most of our history. We have a campus, actually an off-site location in Marion, Virginia, about 20 miles up the road from us, at the old Smith County Community Hospital, which we acquired about 15 years ago, 10 to 15 years ago, and have completely renovated, and it houses all of our graduate health sciences programs, as well as our undergraduate program in nursing. And I just want to focus on the success of our programs. Our Master of Physician Assistant program has 100% pass rate of the licensing exam for their graduates in 10 out of their 12 years. The other 2 years they had 97%. We told them they got to improve that. Our Master of Clinical Mental Health Counseling is our newest program, only 3 years in. They also have a 100% pass rate for the professional licensing exam. Our Doctor of Occupational Therapy, which transitioned from a master's program a few years ago, they too have had a pass rate of 97 to 100% in every of their graduating classes. And our Doctor of Physical Therapy program, which is our longest standing program, the first program that we had, they have an average pass rate across the years of 95%, which also puts them in very high stead among our peers. And I just want to include here with talking about a piece of news from the late fall. We reduced our tuition from over $39,000 to $19,000. And people said, "Oh, how can you afford to do that?" Well, the reality is no one was really paying $39,000. And a lot of people had sticker shock. I mean, in Southwest Virginia, $39,000 is a lot to pay for a college degree. And I said the truth was nobody was paying $39,000 between scholarships and other discounting that we would do. And so, the old wisdom was if you have a higher price, that makes you a more prestigious institution. I think people are much more consumer conscious when they're looking at their education now. And so we, beginning with this incoming class in the fall, our tuition is down to $19,990. which is actually much closer to the price that students actually pay. And we thought, well, we lose so many students because they think they wouldn't even give us a second look. And so now at least we've opened that door. So I want to close by, again, thanking you all for your hospitality and letting me present to you today. And I want to tell you about some of the changes at Emory and Henry. You know, we used to say that we were the region's best kept secret. Well, who wants to be a secret, right? We want everybody to know about us. Being a secret did us no good. So I invite you to come see us sometime. We're right off exit 26 on the Virginia side, off of 81. If you've been before, come back and see us again. We have a beautiful historic campus. Come see a theatrical production or a music performance at our McLaughlin Center for the Performing Arts, a state-of-the-art facility that we have on campus. Come and see a track competition or a soccer match on our new Food City multi-sport complex. It's visible from the interstate at exit 26. I'm told it has an Olympic quality track surface. It's called a Mondo track. And it's very popular. So we're hosting a lot of not only our own competitions, but others as well. It's supposed to make you run faster. I don't think it's going to help me at all. But, that's it. Come see a football game, or come see the marching band, which is one of our pride accomplishments at Emory and Henry. Or if you're interested in health sciences, arrange a tour of our health sciences campus. We'd love to have you see what we've got there. There's some amazing technology in that building and equally impressive people. So I invite you to explore Emory and Henry, get to know more about us. We're not a secret anymore. We don't want to be. A lot of good things happening at Emory and Henry. And I thank you for giving me the opportunity to spend some time talking about one of my favorite topics today. And we appreciate your attention, and I'll be glad to answer any questions